guys, I'm ChezPride and welcome back to another Sims 4 Enchanted by Nature related video. And today I'm finally coming out of mostly playing in just Create a Sim and build mode and finally jumping into a little bit more of the gameplay in the pack. More so the fairy related gameplay in the pack. Basically, I want to show off mostly everything fairy gameplay related, except for what I've already shown off, and stuff like woohoos and death, and a couple other things that I feel like is just important enough to be on its own. Now, obviously, there's more than just fairy gameplay when it comes to the gameplay in this pack. I mean, it is a whole expansion pack worth of content. It's not just going to be focused around fairies, but still in my mind, this is the fairy pack. And obviously with the fairy gig coming up and with this pack just coming out in the last couple of months, my mind has been very heavily been thinking about fairies. So when it comes to starting to actually play through the gameplay in this pack, I want to start out and mainly focus on fairies first. Now, I have already showed off how to become a fairy in the game, but in this video I want to show off what there is to do once you actually become a fairy. And like I said, there will be things that I touch on and slightly talk about in this video, but I will show off more in detail in other videos, such as like every single power for the fairy dust. Like, I'm going to talk about fairy dust a good bit in this video, but I'm not going to show off every single thing it can do. There are some things that are just going to blend in with other videos, or also the different skill trees that you can follow. Like, I'm going to obviously show them off, but I'm not going to actually play through them. That'll be a whole other video series. Or stuff like woohoos, babies, deaths. I feel like all that kind of deserves to be its own thing. But pretty much everything else fairy related I want to touch on in this video. But for now, before we actually get into the gameplay, I guess I should probably introduce you to the family that we will be showing off most of this fairy gameplay with. So if you've watched some of my previous review videos for this pack, you may recognize this sim in particular, or at least his family that I'm going to be talking about, because I actually use him and his family in multiple videos so far. So basically, if you watched my first review video, which was the Create a Sim video that I did on everything that was non-fairy related. So basically anything in Create a Sim that wasn't specifically made for fairies, I went over in that video. And he was actually the first sim I made. So typically when I do Create a Sim review videos, the very first category I go over is the masculine adult sim category. And originally, I was going to do like I normally do it and do like a young adult couple, a kid and a toddler and an infant. But then as I was making him and I was going through the hairs and I saw this hair, particularly in the gray swatch, I was like, oh my god, that gives Elfman vibes. And I wanted to make like an elder Elfman, so he ended up becoming the dad of the young adult female sim who had all the kids. And then as I was going on, I found the antlers and the hoofs, and I was like, he has to be a deer man. He can't be a fairy, he has to be a deer man. And then originally his daughter in the first video I made was not a fairy, but I'm pretending that he married a fairy and had two fairy daughters, and like she became a fairy in the Create a Sim video, or not really, it was half Create a Sim, half gameplay review video. Basically, it was showing off how to become a fairy and everything in Create a Sim and fairies. I turned her into a fairy in that video, so in my mind, he had two fairy daughters, and the first video that we showed him off in shows off the first daughter and all her kids, and then that other video kind of shows her life before kids, basically. And now that we are making another video, I wanted to include him and kind of show where he is living, because obviously he's not living with that daughter, but instead he's actually living with his other daughter's 2 daughters. So in my mind, he had 2 fairy daughters. The first one was the one that we showed off. The second one actually passed away after having her 2 twin fairies, and she passed away when they were teenagers. And then her evil daughter ended up having a teenage pregnancy, and now she has a teenager. And so the grandpa, the 2 grandkids are all being adults and raising the teenager together is kind of the story I'm going with, basically. So he is technically not a fairy. They are all fairies. The 2 granddaughters and the great granddaughter are all fairies, but I did want at least one non-fairy so we could do the different interactions between fairies as well as different interactions between non-fairies and fairies. Not bringing in other cults, just like regular Sims and fairies. He is the only non-fairy Sim we have. But let me go ahead, in case you didn't watch me create him, let me just show off his outfits real quick and his traits. So this is Braden Deerman, very fitting name. But he has the Elixir Enthusiast aspiration. That does come in this pack. We're not going to be going over it because it's not fairy related, but it's basically apothecary skill aspiration. And he's also a dog lover. He doesn't have a dog right now, but I'm going to say he used to raise dogs. He's a genius and he loves the outdoors. This is his kind of mainly what he wears in most of his outfits. He has some other looks, but his looks don't stray far. So this is his everyday, this is his formal, this is his athletic, this is his sleepwear, this is his party wear, this is his swimwear, this is his hot weather, and his cold weather. And then we have his 2 twin granddaughters. Now, I did decide to go with twins because basically in this video, I kind of want to walk you through the fairy aspiration. So both of these Sims have the fairy aspiration, and we're going to play through the first 2 tiers with both of them at the same time, because once you get past the first 2 tiers, it's kind of like the werewolf aspiration, with once you play with it, you can pick out different like I would say aspiration pass is what would be the best name for them. And in this pack, you can choose to kind of basically be a good mystical fairy or an evil disruptive fairy. So I made fairies for both, and we're going to play through, and then I can show you off the different aspirations. We're not going to completely play through all the aspirations, but I can at least get to the point I can show you all the requirements for them. So the good fairy is named Sage. Now Sage is very similar to her aunt that was his other daughter that we showed off. I mean, they're obviously not the same. She is very much more tomboyish than her aunt, but they give very similar vibes. And you may be thinking she doesn't look very tomboyish, but compared to her aunt, she does. But like I said, her name is Sage, and this is Sage Shire. They all have S names with the last name Shire, except for the grandpa. But obviously she has the fairy aspiration, but she has the mystical trait. She's a plant lover, and she's generous. And all of their fairy outfits and their everyday outfits are similar but different. So this is her up close. I love these eyes, like the flower eyes with this hair. I think it's so cute, especially with these earrings. I don't know, I'm obsessed with her. But this is her everyday. And then we have her formal, her athletic, her sleepwear, her party wear, her swimwear, her hot weather, and her cold weather. As you can see, I kind of tried to dress them where they're wearing some of the same clothing items a lot. I just very felt like that was fairy vibes. But speaking of fairies, this is her fairy form. As you can see, her outfit is similar but different. She obviously has the glowing tattoos, the flower crown, the wings, the gorgeous, gorgeous wings. I love these wings. But this is her in her everyday. We have her in her formal, which is the same, her athletic, her sleepwear, her party wear, her swimwear, her hot weather, and her cold weather. And then her sister, we kind of did the same thing. So her sister is Shigo. And yes, she has a green and black theme. And yes, there are certain outfits that look like the Kim Possible Shigo. We all know who I was referencing as soon as I said Shigo and she was dressed in green and black. Okay. But she is our evil, disruptive fairy. She also has the fairy aspiration. She is disruptive, she's evil, and she is active. I thought very fitting. But this is her up close. She obviously is her twin, but different eyes and a little bit surprisingly a little bit calmer of a look. But she's actually, I don't know, I think her regular form is honestly kind of cuter than her fairy form, but I love both. But I did use some of the new CC creator kit. Well, I guess by the time this video comes out, it'll be the day before the actual new one. But the one previous to the ones that are about to come out, this is in this pack. But this is her everyday, her formal, her athletic wear. We got that Shigo looking top. We have the sleepwear. We have the party wear, the swimwear, the hot weather, and the cold weather, which is total Shigo vibes. This is her most Shigo looking outfit. And then we have her fairy form. So she also has a flower crown, and I am obsessed with her wings. I mean, her outfit is cute. I just like the other one better. But this is her everyday as a fairy, her formal, her athletic, her sleepwear, her party wear, her swimwear, her hot weather, and her cold weather. And then, of course, we have Shigo's daughter that she had as a teen pregnancy, and she is the complete opposite of Shigo. She is a total ray of sunshine, hence her name being Sunray Shire. Now, she is mystical and good, but she just wants to be a friend of the world. She definitely appreciates her fairy heritage, but she just kind of wants to be a normal teenager, honestly. She will probably grow up and appreciate her fairy powers more, but for now, she kind of just wants to blend in as she can. But this is her. I just wanted to have the option to have a teenager fairy just because I want more teenager fairies for a different save file, but two, I just wanted to show off the different age ranges here. So this is her in her kind of just normal everyday wear. So we have her everyday, we have her formal, kind of giving prom vibes. We have her athletic wear, we have her sleep wear, her party wear. I'm loving the little lemon dress on her. So cute, especially with these eyes. The eyes kind of look like the same color as the lemon almost. I'm just adoring it. We have her swimwear, her hot weather, and her cold weather, including the new jeans from the pack. And then if we go into her fairy form, we definitely have more of a fairy vibe. She doesn't wear a crown because, like I said, she appreciates her fairy heritage and she'll dress up for when she's in her fairy form, but she doesn't want to be a fairy princess like her mom and her aunt, basically. So this is her in her fairy form. I'm obsessed with her wings. I love these wings on her. I'm obsessed with all their wings, apparently. I'm just obsessed with the wings in this game in general, honestly. I think they're so beautiful. This is her everyday, her formal, her athletic, her sleepwear, her party wear, her swimwear, her hot weather, and her cold weather. So that is the family that we are going to be playing with for this little video. We're mainly going to be playing with Sage and Shigo, as you could probably imagine. But I wanted the other family members in there to interact with. So I am going to go ahead and jump into the save file where I have went ahead and placed them down. I actually placed them in a house in the Ferry neighborhood. Like, I've mainly only been in the Ferry neighborhood so far. I did show off some of the gameplay on one of the empty lots in that neighborhood. I remodeled the tree house in that neighborhood, and now I'm showing off the house I was like the second most excited to see out of all the ones I kind of saw previews of. So it's kind of like the fairy cottagey, like cottage castle fairy house thing. It normally has other people living in it, and I did have to expand the basement enough to fit 2 beds in, and I added some fairy houses, but other than that, I kept it the same. And if you've seen my other previous review videos, when it comes to like expansion packs that have big worlds, throughout the different videos, I like to show off the different builds that come in the world. I do end up doing a world review videos, but to show off all the different homes, I typically show them off through the different gameplay videos. So this is going to be the one I'm showing off in this video. So let me go ahead and jump into our game so we can look at that house before we jump into the official gameplay. So if you had no idea what house I was talking about, this is the house I was talking about. And as you can see, I was not lying. It very much gives tiny castle and fairy cottage vibe, like a very good blend of both, and I'm honestly obsessed with it. Like I said, it was the house I was the second most excited for, but honestly, this one I am way more impressed by than the other one. There's a reason I showed off the other one by giving it a makeover, even though it was the one I was most excited for. But it is in the same neighborhood, so over here is that house that I gave a little makeover to. It's super cute on the outside, it's just not the best on the inside. And as you can see, there's another house over here. We have waters all around, including the waters that you can go to turn into a ferry. We have the hub that I will be kind of showing off in this video. This is the lounge that I'll probably show off in the world video. Or is it a lounge? Yeah, it's the lounge, I believe. And over here, I think it's just a blank lot, I think. I know there's a blank lot somewhere in this world. Or in this neighborhood. But like I said, I'm going to be showing off the world in more detail in a separate video that goes over every single neighborhood. So far, I haven't really journeyed out of this neighborhood, but I am obsessed with this neighborhood, and that is why I've mainly been playing in this one, especially since I've mainly been focusing on fairies so far. When we get into the more like apothecary skill and like plant sims and, gnomes and stuff like that, I'll kind of venture out a little bit more, and then I'll start doing like a whole world review video once I've ventured out into the other neighborhoods a little bit more. But like I said, I like to show off the different houses through my gameplay videos. So let's go ahead and show off this one. There is typically another family living here, but I kicked them out and moved my family in. I added a couple of items, like a couple of beds and some fairy houses. But other than that, I pretty much kept it the same. It was originally for a couple and their child daughter, but we're going to pretend our teenager just aged up into a teen. So she still has some of her kids' stuff in her room. But I didn't want to touch the house too much because honestly, I think it's beautiful as is. So when you walk up, there is this beautiful entryway. Surprisingly, the mailbox is all the way over there. I don't know why that was a choice, but it was. But you walk up, there's these 2 little buildings here. We have a little book reading table here, and over here we have another book reading table, but it has like an open book on it, which was such a cute detail. We have a little bridge that walks over a little pond. It has a fountain in the middle, but you come up here and this leads you to the stairway. If you did come around and look at the house from the outside, there is a little bar area over here that comes out from the house, like in this little gazebo. And then the gazebo walks you down into a swing set because, this originally had a kid in it, but also a little garden section, which is so cute. And then there's also an apothecary, a little area that comes off the back, which I thought was perfect for our dear man grandpa. And then this is just kind of what the side of the yard looks like. But now let's go into the actual house. So there is multiple levels of the house. So this is the main level. So we have this cute little entryway. I would like it more if it had a table in it, but, that's just kind of my personal taste. But you walk into this beautiful fairy-esque purple and blue living room, which I'm obsessed with. I love the white fireplace. I feel like it would get dirty so quick, but it's so pretty. I love the vinage on the inside. It goes into this proper dining space with like this little cute lamp on the table, which leads you out to like the bar area that leads you to the garden. So that's how you get to that. If you go into this room, it's the kitchen. So we have the new kitchen set with the counters and whatnot. We have the refrigerator area. Oh, I love the little aprons. That's so cute. And then we have this whole little like glass sitting area for two. There's just like a little kitchen table, but I love that it's just like all glass with the little archway that they made out of the columns. That's so adorable. If you go into here, it leads you into like a hallway area with like a grand piano, which I love, which also leads you to the upstairs. So if you go upstairs, it's just one room, but it's basically like this attic space. They've done a lot of attic spaces in the fairy world, which I'm kind of obsessed with, but it's basically a skill building room. You got your computer, you got your chess table, you got a little reading nook, which has a little fairy light that I'm obsessed with. And then over here we have like a little painting balcony, which I didn't even notice, honestly, which I'm obsessed with. Oh, it has a little bonsai tree. That's cute. But then we can go back down here. All right, and then if you were to go out this way, this is how you get to the apothecary table area. And like I said, grand piano. And then this is how you get down to the basement. We'll get to that in a second. That's a whole other thing. But this circles back to the living room. And then you can go down here. And there's this little sitting area. If you come here, this is the quote-unquote child's bedroom. Again, we have a teenager. We're going to pretend she just aged up into a teen. So she still has all her kid stuff. But mainly I wanted to do that because I want to show off the little shrinking down into the fairy house. And then the kid has their own bathroom. Honestly, a really nice bathroom too for a kid. Like they have their own ensuite with their own tub. That is awesome. That is awesome. And then this is Grandpa's room. So I gave him the master suite, even though there's only one of them and there's two sisters. I'll show you why when we go downstairs. But this is the master suite. It has the whole new fairy bed and a little seating area. I'm assuming this is his own ensuite. It is for a couple. And there's two sinks, but it's fine. I wish they would have included a shower somewhere in this build, but we'll live. We'll live. And then if we go out here, I think the only place left to look is the basement. So the basement, excuse me, because, we all know tabs is weird, is interesting. So, we have this like basically dungeon moment. It has keys on the wall with like two locked doors and just like a table to sit guard at with like little swords. I feel like this has to do, and I'm sorry if this like sounds like derogatory, not if I can't say the word, derogatory, but like human slavery, because, fairies were known to capture humans as their slaves. Historically, realistically, fays were. And when you go into the rooms, originally it was a room that was 2 tiles shorter with just the chair and the lamp. Same on this side, just the chair and the lamp. And I expanded it to put a bed for Shigo and a bed for Sage. But I do think these were supposed to be dungeons originally, and I'm kind of living for it. I was not expecting that when I looked in this house. That was a total surprise, but I'm kind of obsessed with it. So that is the house that we're going to be playing in today. I just want, like I said, show off as many builds in this pack as I can throughout these review videos. And there is going to be there is a whole playlist that shows off the reviews I have done, and I will add on the reviews I do after this review video to that playlist as well. And it will show off different houses, and has already showed off another house. So if you're wanting to see all the houses throughout my series, I will be showing them out throughout the different reviews. But I would say that's enough introductions and tours for this video. Let's jump into the actual fairy gameplay and what makes a fairy unique and different from other Sims in the game. Now, obviously, like other cults, fairies have different needs, and there's different ways to fill those different needs. So starting off with the most obvious one that we are looking at on the screen right now is the needs bar. So typically in a normal needs bar, I'll show you here, we have 6 needs, but with fairies, there are 5 needs. And that is because instead of bladder and hunger, they have emotional force. So basically, it's kind of similar to the vampires. So basically, they don't need to eat, and they don't need to use the restroom. But they do have to get emotions in other ways to be able to use their fairy powers. So they still have their fun, their social, their energy, their hygiene. So they still have to bathe, they still have to sleep, they still have to talk, they still have to have fun. But we have to absorb emotion. And there's different ways you can do that to absorb emotion. But if you run out of emotional force, that's how a fairy dies. So like I said, I'm saving the woohoo and babies and death all for a different video because I thought like those things go together separately and were worth making their own video on. But that is how you die, if you were curious. You basically just have to drain your fairy of all emotional force. At least that's the main way to die in the pack. But if you don't want your fairy to die, then you can refill your emotional force by absorbing emotion from other Sims. And you can also use fairy dust to refill your emotion. Same with potions, as well as when you climb skill trees, you can get different abilities that will help regain your emotional force. Like I said, it's kind of similar in the vampire and like spellcasters type vibes, so where like you have to like keep it at a certain level. But that's kind of how fairies are quote unquote unique as far as their needs go. And like I said, there's a different way. So if let's just say let's go to Shigo, because I feel like Shigo would suck emotional force from her dad. But basically, let's go ahead and drain our emotional force down to like here. And then if we clicked on her granddad, I said dad, but granddad, we can go to fairy and we can absorb emotion. So let's go ahead and have her do that real quick. So, oh, he literally just floats in the air. That's a little rude. Let's see. It did make their relationship go down. Not much. But it says, Shigo needs to be careful. If she continues to absorb emotions that are too powerful, she will become overloaded. So you don't want to get overloaded, but you also don't want to lose all your emotional force. So there we go. We have that. And then, let's see. we have a tense moodlet. Impending overlap for absorbing the emotion that is too powerful. I guess he was in too good mood? I don't know. But I'm going to delete that because it's just a representation of how you can get emotional force in there. Like I said, you can also use potions and fairy dust. So as you can see here, there is some fairy dust laying on the ground. So if we were to bring down her emotional force, and then let's go ahead and collect all the fairy dust. There's a couple of different ways of collecting fairy dust, and we'll go over that in a minute. But right quick, I just want to show off them using the fairy dust. Can we not use it? Missing. Oh, we have to have 3 piles of fairy dust. Interesting. Okay. Well, one way we can get fairy dust is brushing off fairy dust. So let's hopefully get her to brush off some more fairy dust. Oh, and that just puts it straight into our inventory. Perfect. Okay, so now we can go here and we can fairy regain force. And this way is a little bit kinder, and she's kind of doing it in her own way. It kind of looks weird with her not having her wings out, but I was going to get to that in a minute. I wanted to go over the fairy dust first. I wanted to mainly see how much this refills their need. Like, it was down to the middle. Is this going to refill it all the way? Okay, it doesn't refill it all the way, unfortunately. But we feel replenished, and we don't have a tense moodlet when we do it that way. So I guess that works. I am just real quick going to be a cheaty cheat and alter your needs and fill needs for the world, and then try to disable their need decay. We have that for a moment. But like I said, there are different ways to gain fairy dust. So as far as getting fairy dust, like I already showed off, you can brush it off a fairy, and they'll also just, like, the more fairies you have around, they'll just randomly drop piles of fairy dust, and as you saw, we can just collect them off the ground. Also, when a fairy cleans themselves or woohoos another sim, we can also collect piles of fairy dust they leave behind. I believe also if you shake fairy homes, or even possibly have fairy parties in the fairy homes, you can collect fairy dust. You can ask another fairy for fairy dust, and you can also, apparently, if you forge, you can get fairy dust from the forging, like the naturopath skill, and you can also get a daily amount from the fairy council. So if you want to go to the fairy council once a day, you can collect fairy dust. So there's a lot of different ways to get fairy dust. Okay, so the fairy council hangs out by the hub. So we can go here, and apparently, I guess if we meet them, we can ask for fairy dust. So let's go ahead and perhaps do that. We can do like a respectful introduction because it's the fairy council. Maybe Sunray can actually show us just asking regular fairy. So maybe she can ask her mom for fairy dust while her aunt goes and introduces them. So we should just be able, we can also ask permission to absorb emotions if we want to do that. But I want to just go ahead and ask for fairy dust. I guess if you want to get emotional force off a person and you don't want to get that tense moodlet, you could just ask them for it. But also, you can just ask for a fairy dust, and they hand it over, and now she has 1 fairy dust in her inventory. So let's go ahead and go meet the council real quick. Respectful introduction, chat with Karen. Okay, come on. We gotta hurry this up a little bit. Alright, it begins. Yeah, you can like video gaming, that's fine. But I just want to go ahead and we can acquire a fable. That's apparently something else you can do with the council. Ask about fairies, ask about fairy council, ask about Star T's teleporter. Okay, I didn't know what the teleporter was, so maybe I will ask about some of this stuff real quick. Apparently, you can also trade items with them. That's good to know. But let's ask about the Fairy Council and the teleporter, because I actually didn't know about this. I mean, I knew about the Fairy Council, but I was always kind of a little confused what the Fairy Council was exactly. So I'm going to learn this with you guys. Okay, so the teleporter can locate, it lets you travel to hidden places with fairy dust. Okay, so that's how we're able to travel to the secret worlds that they were telling us about. Not worlds that come in this, but base game worlds. I wanted you to ask about Fairy Council, please. I'm very curious. Alright, can we please ask about the Fairy Council? Please and thank you. There we go. Alright, the Fairy Council was formed decades ago to keep peace between the normies, gnomes, and the fairies resided in the land. As Lizentation, I welcome newcomers, oversee fairy dust dispersation at the Mava's Fairy Hub, and collect toys for local fae children. The council discourages the use of fairy abilities at the coast of Admore and gives a little reprise from Inniscreen May enchantments. Those who disobey will have to deal with me, so don't get on my wrong side. Okay, so apparently you have certain places you're not allowed to use your fairy powers, which I find honestly very interesting. Like, I guess that's in the gnome world because they're not particularly a fan of fairies there. So I guess that's why. And we're going to have to interact with the hub in a little bit. But while I'm over here, just let me kind of show you what it is basically. So pretty much you can come here to keep care of your needs. You can also research how to become a non-fairy. So you can, if you are interested in not being a fairy anymore, you could do that. Honestly, we may have the teenager do that at some point. But we may come back to that. Because I'm kind of curious what it looks like to not be a fairy anymore. But I don't know if that's something like you can automatically do or you have to work towards like Ambrosia. I don't know. But you can also learn about the history of Everdew if you're curious about learning about the history. You can investigate fairy court documents. You can collect daily dust rations, that daily dust there now that you know the Fairy Council. You can sponge bathe in the bathroom to keep care of your hygiene. You can use the toilet. So very useful spot here. And then as far as actual abilities and interactions go, obviously the first ability you can do on yourself is change into your fairy form. So let's go ahead and change the sisters back into their fairy form so we can reveal her fairy form. And then honestly, we have a plant sim. Is she a teen? No, but she's cute. Sunray, how about you make friends with her? She could ask for a magic bean. Oh yeah, I forgot you could not just ask straight up plant sims for a magic bean now. Okay, let's do a friendly introduction and maybe we'll ask for a magic bean. But you can reveal your fairy form and you can also instantly fly here, so they can kind of basically teleport. But let's go ahead and watch Shigo go ahead and reveal her fairy form. So I'm curious to what it looks like. Oh, she just spins around. It's not that big of an interaction, honestly, which is slightly disappointing, but I guess it's fine. Are now focused from interaction, good versus evil, feeling replenished, clean air. Apparently they're enjoying the clean air. Alright, so that's kind of the moodlets we've gotten so far. And then when we click on ourselves, pretty much all we can do is regenerate emotional force if we have a certain amount of fairy dust. Brush off fairy dust, detect emotions, and conceal fairy form. And we can also disable flying if we wanted to, but why would we want to? But honestly, just starting out, there's not that many abilities you can do just by clicking on yourself. You are able to click on certain objects and like shrink down and interact with objects, but most of the other things come from either when you choose a skill tree and climb it and gain ranks in your fairy abilities or fairy ranking, I guess, or you interact with other fairies or other sims. So first, before we interact with other sims, because like I said, I'm gonna slightly in a little bit show off those skill trees, but they're gonna be a whole other video series going over those skill trees. But right quick, I want to show off the shrinking of the objects, and then we'll start kind of interacting between different characters. First, let's go ahead. I know we can interact with the mailbox. So since I'm already on Shigo, let's go ahead and do that. So we can shrink and play. So let's go ahead and shrink and play. There we go. Come on. Let's fly over here. I guess I could have just slowly teleported over here, but it's fine. Yep, she shrinks down and she goes into the mailbox. It doesn't look like you can actually tell she's in there. She just kind of goes in there. Well, that's slightly disappointing. Just a little slightly disappointing. She stays in there a long time. I'm assuming this gets her fun up. But she looks so cute when she's shrunken. I know you can play in the sink. I know you can also nap on the piano. I want to see her playing the sink first. So let's go ahead and perhaps have her instantly fly here. So we can have her little teleporting moment. Perfect. And now we are going to splash in the water. Oh my gosh, she's so cute as a little fairy. Hold on, I got get a picture of her. I hate that like her wings aren't showing. Like she's in her fairy form. So I don't understand like why her wings aren't showing. But this has also just been a problem for a while. Like ever since the pack came out. They said they fixed it. Well, actually, technically, they said it shouldn't show. And if it continues showing and not showing in other things to report it. I feel like in their shrunken down forms, they should be able to do that. Oh, yeah, because her wings are there when she comes back. Oh, you're very playful. Why so gullible from the deceptive trait? Oh, apparently, did you trick her or something? Nosy nausea from feeling wrenched. Stop talking to your daughter. You're upsetting her. You're upsetting your daughter. How about you come here, instantly fly here, and I want to see you fall asleep on the piano. Because I think that would be so cute. All right, come here. Let's come here and shrink and sleep. Shrink and sleep. Alright. Oh, she sleeps on the actual keyboard. I was expecting her to sleep under here for some reason. I don't know why. But look how freaking adorable. Oh my goodness. Why? Why are they so cute when they're little? And she has her wings in this form. I don't know. I don't know what was up with the wings disappearing in the sink. While she's sleeping there, how about you? You know what? Actually, you know what? You can come inside and use your fairy form. So let's come here. Since you're going inside, you can reveal your fairy form. And then I want you to come and shrink and sleep in the dollhouse. Because I love the idea of fairies going into the dollhouse. I wish it was like a interaction where they would like play in the dollhouse, like using the furniture, but I do understand where sleeping in it would be easier to animate. So let's go ahead and perhaps get a picture of her sleeping in the little dollhouse. Oh my goodness. Wait, is she covering her face? What are you doing with your hand? Wait, I'm so confused. Oh, are you scratching you're scratching your head. Okay. I was about to be like, what are in the world? But yeah, no. I guess that's fair. Oh, but she's so cute when she sleeps in her little dollhouse. It's like something from her childhood too. I love it. So that's everything I know you can shrink into. Like I'm thinking, oh, we can shrink and play in the fireplace. Oh, I feel like that's dangerous, but I'm curious. I'm so curious. Play in the fireplace. I wonder if you can shrink and play in the stove. Are you going to set a fire? What are you doing in the fireplace? Do you come out? I'm so confused what you're doing in the fireplace. You set a fire or something? No? What's the point in that? Whatever. Whatever. So I think that's pretty much all I can think of that they can shrink into besides their fairy homes. I'll get to fairy homes because we have to interact with them more so when we get to the aspiration. But before we get to the aspiration, I actually wanted to talk about the social interactions between fairies and non-fairies, as well as fairies and fairies. So I guess both of these fairies are asleep. So Sage, I guess you can come talk to your dad, and we can kind of see if there's anything we can do with him besides get their emotion from them. So let's see. If we come here, we can read his aura because we're a mystical fairy. We can grant a secret blessing. Maybe we can do that. Let's see. Social. What does hangry mean? Brag about flying. Discuss home decor. Flood with laughter. Okay, I want to brag about flying and perhaps flood with laughter. Is there anything else that's really popping up? Just fairies? Not too much. Traits. You're a natural healer. Green is deeply connected to wellness and health. You definitely get those around her. So apparently she was able to read that his aura was green. But there's not too many interactions besides absorbing and detecting their emotion. So I guess we can real quick detect his emotion because we just read his aura. We didn't technically detect his emotion. What are we doing now? Oh, we're flooding with laughter. Does that make him playful? I'm assuming it would make him playful. Oh. Alright, so she just was like, oh, what's your emotion? And then she read it. But I'm not seeing too much of it actually affecting him. It's actually more so affecting the fairy than it is him, which is interesting. I thought it would have a more of an effect. But let's reverse roles here. Let's see if by asking her what we can do with her. So we can ask how to become a fairy. We can ask if fairies' wings get tangled. We can ask Sage to absorb emotions. So I guess if you don't want to feel the emotion you're feeling, maybe you can ask them to absorb. You can ask for fairy dust. You can joke about a tiny home. And you can talk to about fairy magic. Let's see what happens when we talk to about fairy magic just to see what she says. Because we may learn something. And then we'll do different interactions between them. Let's see. Enter discussion. When talking to fairies, you generally have magical conversations. Okay, but we didn't get any actual information, which is a little sad. But now, I guess we can go ahead and interact between two fairies. So, let's go ahead, since she goes already up here, let's go ahead and interact with her. So, when we interact fairy to fairy, apparently, you can absorb the emotion of other fairies? I actually wasn't expecting that. Okay. But we can ask to how to become a non-occult. We can ask Chico how to absorb emotion, ask about another nature, ask about fairy dust, brag about wingspan, complain about flying hazard, and flood with laughter. Okay, we haven't seen complain about flying hazard or brag about wingspan, so we'll go ahead and talk to him. Maybe you, dear man, can come hang out with your granddaughter is taking a nap still. Oh, God. Okay, well, why don't you come here and relax on the bed a little bit? You are going to come chat with your sister, which apparently she took her wings off to sit in the chair, which I guess makes sense because they would clip. All right. You gonna chat? Get to know. That is not what I chose for you to do. Why did you cancel your interactions? Why does this keep happening? This keeps happening. Okay, fairy, social. I want to just discuss wings. I want to social. Laugh about that. We can social. Perhaps maybe we can. Well, normally when we ask about another nature, it tells us how to become a fairy. So what is that happens if a fairy asks another fairy about Mother Nature? Because normally if a non-fairy asks a fairy, then they tell you how to become a fairy. It doesn't actually give me any information. That's honestly kind of lame. Are you awake yet? Oh, you're awake. And interact with your grandpa. I want you to give a life lesson. And perhaps we can talk to you about fairy magic. And let's see, is there any other interactions when I click on her that's like fairy Pacific when we click on it? Not really. So that's really mostly the social interactions you can get without climbing the tree, not including Woohoo, of course. Woohoo is a whole different level of interaction. Is there any... Well, I guess we couldn't tell because they're sisters. I'm assuming there might be a couple of flirtatious fairy interactions as well. I know there is once you start gaining certain trees, but as far as interacting between fairies, I can't really test that in this video. We'll test that more when we talk about Woohoos and deaths. But with that, I think everything else that we need to go over is actually, I believe, in the aspiration. Because we have the aspiration to go over, and then we'll look at the paths and the trees kind of within that, as well as the fairy houses. So let's go ahead and look at this fairy aspiration. So basically, like I said earlier, it's very similar to the werewolf aspiration in the way that you complete certain things no matter what category you're going to, and then when you finish the first two tiers, you get to choose a path, either good or evil. So for the first tier, you have to become a fairy. Obviously, we're already fairies. We have to throw 3 fairy dance parties at a fairy home and befriend 2 fairy sims. So I think the way for us to do this at the same time is, first of all, we need to start a fairy club. So let's create our own club. Fays just like to have fun. That's bad. Oh, I ran out of room. Okay, well, 2 can be 2. There we go. I didn't know the titles could run out. Okay, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, and maybe we can make it like a music thing. I don't know. Alright, obviously we have to put in our sister. It'll probably not include our teenage daughter because she's not really too much into it. But I think the only thing is we're going to have to be a fairy. You have to be a fairy. So let's see who we have. So we already mentioned the Legend Council. This girl seems cool. I think this is actually the person that's supposed to live here, or the Summer Dreams. Yeah, these are the family that's supposed to live in this house. This is the mom, I'm assuming dad, and the kid. I'm assuming they're mom, dad, and kid. Maybe we can add them because we were technically supposed to have them living here. And then we can choose this like Ehrlich person. He looks kind of cute. So I think that's all our people. So we can start a hangout. Now we know some fairy sims, so we can come here. And I guess we can add to be friendly so we can have quicker friendship gain. I guess if we have the other fairies here, we could possibly try to have some of them flirt, just see if there's any flirty interactions. So if the club is here, how about let's all of us go into the living room area. Let's all fly here together. Have a bunch of fairies come out. I'm very curious to see if I click fly here together, if, yeah, the people automatically have their wings out. Yay! Okay, oh, and they're automatically leaving. Okay, well, we need to become friends with 2 fairies. So, are you already talking? Yeah, you're already talking to this one, which honestly, I could totally see you 2 being friends. So, let's talk about the club. Let's get a little bit of a friendship because we have to become friends. We can deep thoughts. Maybe we can discuss plant rights because we're a plant lover. Laugh about non-fairy plant traditions. We can flood with laughter. We can discuss interests. There we go. So you can start making friends with her. You can start making friends with her since she's the original owner of this house. We can ask about her career. We can maybe ask to push on swings, see if that happens, because half the time that doesn't work. Ask about her day. We can swap baby milestone stories. Maybe we can ask for fairy dust. And honestly, I just want to perhaps, maybe she would be like, I said we would ask what it took to not be a fairy anymore. So maybe she can like talk to this guy while all the girls are interacting. We could do like a funny introduction to him, and then perhaps we could ask him and see what he says and see if we can do it in this video or if that's something that is a whole process. So let's real quick, I want to fairy social ask how to become a non-occult because I'm curious. Oh, apparently our elder just created a will on his own. I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know Sims just automatically did that on their own. Okay. Fae life can be so emotional. It's okay if your wings feel too heavy. Just find a fairy seeing through forging fables or ordering off the computer or asking a fairy directly. With one safely in your pocket, you can plant it to summon Mother Nature and she'll remove your essence. Okay. Did he give us one? Yes, he gave us one. Okay. So maybe that's how we'll end this video, turning her into a regular sim. Since my first gameplay video was all about turning fairies or regular sims into fairies, I guess that would make sense. Okay. But are you... Oh, you guys are actually pushing on the swing. It actually worked. It actually worked. I'm actually kind of surprised. Honestly. Wait, hold on. Let's see. Oh, never mind. Never mind, I guess? Question mark? Oh, are you having to ask? Oh, no. We just asked for fairy dust. Okay. Well, can you guys become friends faster? Like, what if we perhaps deep thoughts, ask to cloud gaze, and maybe if we can get... Oh, well, she became friends with this fairy super fast. Okay, are we friends? Does that count for our aspiration? Oh, we're friends with 2 fairies. We got that under our belt. You are still befriending a fairy. You know what? You know what? Wait, hold on. What is the second fairy you're friends with? That fairy from the fairy council. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, Shigo, no offense. You're kind of lacking here. So, since I'm trying to speedrun this ever so slightly, I think I'm going to cheat your relationship with these 2 sims. So, we can, like, make your relationship, like, 70, run cheat. We can make you, like, 70, run cheat, perfect. Wait, hold on. I also want it to, let's see. Eric. Are you 2? No, you 2 aren't in a relationship. Maybe Sage. Would you be into Eric or would you be into Nida? I think you'd be in Nida. Okay, what if, right quick, can I cheat your relationship from here? Or I think I have to be in the relationship panel. Okay, I want to perhaps run a romance sheet with them. And let's just see if there's any romance interactions that are fairy specific besides woohooing. I don't think there is, unfortunately, but it was worth a shot. Okay, well, she has a romantic interest now. Congratulations, y'all all just made a bunch of friends here. Our teenage fairy found out how to become a non-fairy. So now we still have to make one more, or I cheated both friends. So we should now be at where we have to throw 3 dance parties at a fairy home. So this is our fairy home. And when you click on a fairy home, you can keep care of your needs or throw parties. So you can regenerate your emotional force. You can apparently rename your fairy house. You can shake for fairy dust. I think you have to throw parties or interact in the thing to have it have fairy dust in it. But then you can also throw parties with. So let's go ahead. I want to let's take a bath. And maybe you can come to this one and regain emotional force. And then once you guys do that, you guys can... Oh, that was so quick. I guess because your needs was already up. I'm assuming if your needs were there, it would have lasted longer. Oh, you two are cloud gazing. You guys don't need to do that anymore. You don't need to do that anymore. Actually, you come here. You teleport here, actually. Come here. And then let's go ahead and regain emotional force. Let's see, can you... We still can't shake for fairy dust. Okay, so it looks like when they go in there, it actually lights up. Interesting. Okay, I like that. Oh, and it sparkles too. All the colors change. Wait, that's actually kind of cool. Wait, that's kind of cool. Let's get that picture of the fairy house lit up so she can do that. How long does this take? I'm actually kind of curious. I wonder if we'll have fairy dust available after this, or we still have to cause a party. How long? Okay, it's almost done. It's like 3/4 the way done. Let's go here. All right. Oh, there we go. That's actually kind of a cool picture, honestly. Wait a minute. Hold on. I like this picture. I don't know why I like this picture, but I like this picture. I'm getting this picture. So now let's go ahead and come here. Can we shake for fairy dust? No. Okay, so I think we literally have to throw a party. We can also sleep in the fairy house. I don't know if that would really be any different than either one of the other interactions, but let's have them both sleep in the fairy house and see what it looks like. Just because you can technically do that and it's a different interaction. Yeah, it literally just shows Z's coming from them. Okay, get up. I want to have a party. I want to have a party. So let's go ahead. And I wonder... Okay, it says... Okay, first of all, we have to throw a party, you have to finish interacting with it. But we can throw a dance party and throw a dance party with. So I guess... Let's see if I throw it with everyone except for our teenage daughter. I feel like our teenage daughter shouldn't come to an adult fairy party. Let's see if it counts as it throwing parties for both of them, or if they have to throw separate parties. Also, I befriended 2 fairies. I should get that counted off of my aspiration. So I'm gonna count that. Oh, I guess I should be looking to see what the actual party looks like. Okay, so this is what it looks like when our fairy house has a party. As you can see, the fairy kind of shrinks. Oh wait, I want to get a picture of the fairy going into the fairy. Okay, well, I didn't get it quite as quick as I hoped to, but they really have a little electronic music going on. It just like pounces. Dum, 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 dum. I love that. This is fun. This is fun. I'm not gonna lie, I was slightly disappointed when we learned that we couldn't woohoo in the fairy house. I feel like that was such a missed opportunity. Like, I feel like if you had a fairy house, why can't you woohoo in it? Like, I like the fact we can throw parties. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like woohooing would have been so much better. I want to get a fairy literally flying. They fly out of the house so fast. That's like the only part of the house that I haven't liked so far, is getting a picture of them coming in and out of it is almost impossible. Let's see. See? It happens so fast. Can we... As soon as the door opens, you have to click it. Let's see. Let's see if we can catch someone. See? They come out of the house so fast. Like, why? Why, bro? I guess this is a decent shot. I guess we can get this shot. Okay. We have that. But now we should be able to, once everyone comes out of the house, to shake the fairy dust. And did that count? Okay. As long as you attend the party, you can totally have it count for both fairies when you throw a party. So both of them got one of their parties counted off, which works out great for me. So let's go ahead and perhaps let's shake for fairy dust. Let's see what happens when we shake for fairy dust real quick. I would assume so. Oh, you are like shaking it, baby. All right. Well, I think we should go ahead and throw our last two fairy parties. So you can throw a party with perhaps these two. You can throw a party with these two. And then you can go ahead and throw a party with the original owners. Let's have them throw their little fairy parties simultaneously. I wish, hold on. Wait, hold on. You know what would be a cute photo? I know it's not very fairy-esque, but we could get a little speaker. Oh my god, this is going to be so cute. Make it like white or something so it blends in. But maybe she can... Oh, we can shrink and play with the speaker. Wait, hold on, I didn't realize that. I'm on the wrong sim. But shrink and play with the speaker. I want to see you do that. Wait, I'm very curious. Oh, you're like early, just like... Are you making music come out? I don't hear music. Oh, there's music. I guess this is how she can dance without a fairy house. She can throw her own little fairy party here. And also, it does say that you can throw your own fairy party like without anyone. So I guess if you want to throw a fairy party just you don't have to have fairy friends. But what's the fun in that, you know? I think we have to throw 2 more parties after this. I do want to go ahead and get more fairy dust from here. So let's go ahead and get a picture of her shaking the fairy house, because I didn't actually get a picture of her shaking it last time. I just got, just viewed it just for what it was. So maybe let's get a picture of her shaking the fairy house, because that's kind of a fun picture as well. All right. But after we get done with that, maybe she can... I know you want to sleep in it, but after you get done throwing your fairy dust, I think both of them could probably end the gathering. And then we could actually just throw single parties and see how it goes. Alright. Oh, apparently these two fairies do not get along that well. Alright. But Shiga, how about you come throw a dance party just by ourselves? So you guys can each have your own individual dance party for your final party. And then we'll be on the second tier. So let's go ahead and go. Let's see. Oh. So they're interacting. How about... Did you turn on the speaker? Oh, I love that when they turned on the speaker here, it just left it on when she was playing with it. That's kind of fun. Honestly, it's kind of fun. And honestly, this is kind of cute with a dance party going on in the fairy house with a fairy dancing beside it. Tell me that's not cute. Tell me that's not cute, though. I love the fact that they're like, no, you can't come to the party. And they're like, you know what? We'll party outside the party. Tell me what to do. Oh, I love it, though. I love it, though. Another way that you can gain emotional force is to bask in emotions in the pond. So, and this is also where you come to become a fairy, I'm pretty sure. You can also apparently ask how it's feeling. I'm going to get into what all the water can do, but I did, since we were showing how to gain emotion, maybe we should come bask in emotion. And you, honestly, how about you come instantly fly here, and you can come here and bottle some emotion potion so we can show off gaining emotional force through the potion. So she goes into the water and she literally just like pulls the potion out. And I think basking in emotion is either just swimming in it or back floating. Yeah, it's back floating. All right. But how about you go ahead, drink. Oh, apparently it's going to give her a bored emotion. Huh. Okay, so you have to, if you want a certain emotion, you have to change the emotional state. I didn't realize it would bottle a certain emotion. I just thought it was any emotion. Okay, well, let's drink the bottled emotion and watch her change her emotion. I'm assuming she's going from very happy to bored. Oh, she got a bored moodlet, but it didn't completely change her mood. Interesting. Okay, well, she drank that. Now, let's go ahead and, yeah, you're just basking, which literally is just floating in the water. Kind of like a mermaid then would do. So now that we've done the 3 fairy interactions, now the second tier is to reach the Glimmer Fairy rank, which I think is the next rank. Glowing? Where's Glimmering's all the way up here? We may cheat that. Just because I'm not playing through the trees right now, we honestly may cheat that for both of them. We have to use fairy dust to enchant 3 items, and we have to visit the Mazel Fairy Hub and use it 3 times. Okay. Well, while she's basking in emotion, you're not you're doing push-ups, but that's not really doing anything. Let's actually have you, who has the most fairy dust? I think, yeah, you have the most fairy dust. So let's have you interact with the hub, and then I'll check it off for both of them, and then I'll have her enchant something 3 times, and then check it off for both of them, and then we'll have both of them, I'll cheat both of them to Glimmering Rake, just so we can move on with the aspiration. So the hub we discussed was this thing. So we have to visit the hub and use it 3 times. So let's go ahead. We can collect our a daily ration. Apparently if you can research how to become a non-cult on here. You don't have to just ask fairies. We can use the toilet, and maybe we can learn a little bit about the history and sponge off. Let's go ahead and sponge off. Also, I don't think I actually ever... Can you? Oh, we don't have the foraging. Okay, I wanted to forage for fairy dust just to see it get that way, but I'll have a whole video where I work on the foraging and the natural skills, so I'll wait till it does that. But let's go ahead and have her come over here and interact with the hub. So she just kind of teleports into it like rabbit hole. The mushrooms kind of just glow. The door lights up a little bit. And pretty much she just goes inside and completes whatever needs. And if I didn't have the needs to get turned off, it would automatically get whatever need that was up. And she got her ration of fairy dust. How much? Okay, so apparently when you do a ration of fairy dust, like your daily ration of fairy dust, you get 5. That's pretty good, honestly. Like, that's not bad. Okay, so it says, the history of Everdew began after Mother Nature used the full moon's power to power her emotions into Moondrop Spring, and the spring was left forever enchanted with a mind of its own from the Moondrop Spring, served as the birthplace of fairies, whereby the raw emotion of Mother Nature, the springs and fairies naturally evolved in the fantastic forest seen today. And we got the natural living skill. Oh, well, apparently she got the natural living skill by going to the hub, so I guess I could see if I could. Nope. Oh, it was just because it was bumpy. Okay, well, let's come forge here. I just want to see if I can get any fairy dust from foraging real quick. But I think that counted towards her interacting with the hub 3 times. Yeah. So we'll also go ahead and check it off for her. So we're going to check it off for her. And then I'll use fairy dust and enchant items 3 times. So let's see. Did you get anything from that? Let's see. Oh, nope. We just got lumps of moss. What can you do with that? I don't know what the purpose of lumps of moss is, honestly. Hold on. Place in the world. I'm actually just curious what happens when you place this. I think it's just something you... Wait, what? Can't not... It doesn't... Okay, that's literally pointless. Good to know. Good to know. And apparently the restroom was fabulous, but the spongy struggle of the natural living skill is not fun for her. And with that, I want to maybe have her come home. So let's have you come here, and you're out in the water with your daughter or your niece. It's Shigo's daughter. Well, maybe I should have Shigo interact or enchant the items then. Aunt and niece time is very important. But I'm assuming when we can enchant a plant. So I know that. But is there anything else we can enchant? Or does it literally have to be plants? I'm assuming you could find something else. Yeah, so apparently it's just gnomes and plants, which is a little sad. I was hoping to not have to enchant plants and gnomes, because that's the one thing I didn't want to enchant, because I was going to show that off in another video. I guess plants are really our only option. Are those the only 2 indoor plants? Here? There we go. Okay, we'll enchant this plant. We don't have any gnomes, and I'm fine by that. I'm going to make a whole nother video on gnomes. But this is her sprinkling the fairy dust on the plants. Hey, come here. Let's sprinkle it. What? I want to sprinkle on this one. Does it do it to all of them around it? Oh, you have to have 4 piles. Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot. Okay, well, I guess we're gonna give her some of these. It actually surprises me how many piles of fairy dust you need to do all this stuff. Okay, well, if I have to choose for you to do one, I'm going to have you do this one. Oh, I guess I could have just had her instantly fly. I'm so used to cheating and teleporting my Sims that I forgot, they can actually do it on their own. Okay. But let's enchant this plant by chance. I want to get a better picture of her sprinkling. Oh, she makes a weird face when she does that. Wait, she does a weird face when she does that. I don't like that. Well, that's a thing. Alright, so you can enchant that, and I guess I'm gonna have you come here. Are you still in the water? Can you get out of the water? Because I think if I teleport you while you're in the water, yeah, the flying doesn't glitch out. Okay. So let's have you come here, and you can't... Oh, here. There's a plant in here. We can enchant this one. Again, I could have just had her fly here. But let's have you go ahead and enchant this plant. And then I will say that's 3 items for both of them, just because we're trying to speed through this. So let's go ahead. Wait, hold on. Do I have to press play? Yeah, there we go. I was about to say, I know I should be able to cheat this one. All right, cheat that. And then I have to cheat their rank. So let me go ahead and explain the rank real quick. So basically, with fairies, they're kind of like pretty much all the other cults where they have, well, almost all the other cults, not including mermaids. But basically, we have skill trees. And there's different skill trees. And just like with all the other skill trees, as you level up, you have accessibility of more of the abilities on the skill tree. And there's different types. So we have manipulation, emotion, nature, and customization. So basically the 3 actual trees are manipulation, emotion, and nature, which kind of go with all the different fairy traits. So manipulation goes with deceptive fairies, emotion goes with mystical, and nature goes with plant lovers. And then you have the customization to where there's positive and negative effects that can go along with these. So like with this first level, which our first level is faint, and then the next level is glowing. The third level is glimmering, which is where they want us to get to. Then we have brilliant and radiant. But like on this first level, for the customization, you can either warm force gain or wicked force gain. So you can gain small amount of emotional force from friendly, romantic, or funny socials, or you can gain a small amount of forces from mischief and mean socials. So it kind of leads you into a good or evil path while you have these different abilities as well. So like, for example, a manipulation, the first one is to cure or apply an ailment, so you can gain power to cure or inflict an ailment on other sims, which is basically like really weird sicknesses. And then you can also sway another's emotion if you have the emotion one, so you can like make them feel a different emotion, so when you absorb their emotion it's different. And then with like the nature one, the first one is you should be able to enchant anything. It basically makes it to where if you get to the second tier, you have no bugs. It stays fully watered, fully weeded, and whatnot. I think all of that's really cool. And of course, as you go up, you gain different things. So like the top one with manipulation, you can either bring a gnome to life or age up another sim. With emotion, you can influence other sentiments. And with nature, apparently, you can, that's how you learn to transform other sims into other fairies. So that's pretty cool that you can learn that. But like I said, I'm probably going to make a video on like each one of these in particular. And then while we're doing these, we'll probably experiment a little bit with these as well. But I did want to just kind of touch base and kind of show all the different ranks, because for the aspiration, you do have to gain to the 3rd rank. So we're going to, I think I have to do it this way. Yeah, I forgot how to cheat it. Okay, see, I'm going to go ahead and cheat them to rank 3 so we can go ahead and complete the aspiration, which means we should be able to pick our path. So once we complete that, we can choose to be a harmonious fairy or a disorient fairy. Now this is Sage, so we want a harmonious because she's good, and Shigo we want disoriented. So when we go from there, we have 2 different basically aspirations now. From here, with this one, a disoriented fairy, which is the evil fairy, you have to use a cure or apply an ailment to a fairy ability and inflict ailments on 3 sims, shift the luck of 3 sims, manipulate 3 objects, and trigger fear of a magic on sim, which is all stuff you get when you gain that, like go through that skill tree. And then with a harmonious fairy, you have to cure 3 ailments on another sim use the growth of eruption fairy ability 3 times, and use the nature fairy ability 3 times. So you can kind of get that through like the nature path and the emotion path. So that's the 2 different aspirations completed, and kind of all the different paths and all the different skill trees you can take. And really, that only leaves me with wanting to turn our teenage sim into a non-fairy. So let's go ahead. Maybe she would do this out away from her family, because like her family might be like kind of mad about it. But let's actually have you come here and change your outfit. So we can change you into your regular outfit, and then come here and plant the fairy seedling. And we can see how to become a non-fairy if for some odd reason you would not want to be a fairy. Because honestly, I think it's totally worth being a fairy. But, you know, everyone might not feel the same. So we already did this in another video to show how to become a fairy. And honestly, it was pretty much exactly the same thing. So we summon Mother Nature, and we ask about non-fairy ask to remove fairy essence. Okay, so let's ask her to remove our fairy essence real quick. Don't run away from me. I'm trying to interact with you, Mother Nature. I'm trying to interact with you, please. Thank you. Alright. Let's get a picture of her talking to Mother Nature, because honestly, that's a must-need photo. And honestly, with the water behind her, beautiful. Actually beautiful. Okay, she's going to talk to Mother Nature. I'm assuming she'll give us something. Oh no, she is just straight up taking away our power. Oh, and what does this have? For Mother's Day, the Mother Nature's charm has taken effect. Sunray can make her way to Moondrop's ring and wash away her ties to being a cult, but be quick. I've removed your fairy essence and bottled it for safe travels. Your emotional force is slow, but no harm will come your way while on this journey. However, time is limited. You must find the spring. I guess if you want to replenish their emotional force, you can drink this instead of going to the water. But we're going to go to the water because she just wants to be a regular teenager. She doesn't want to be a fairy anymore. So we are going to go ahead and relinquish our fairy essence. Alright, so she's going to walk into the water, I assume. I'm assuming it's going to pretty much... Oh, wait, no, we're just like straight up pouring the potion into the water. She's like, no more fairiness. I will not even keep the potion. And it literally just like, oh. Wait, I want... She's straight up like in the air. I gotta get a picture of this. Alright. But yeah, oh, they literally just like drop her back into the water. And she is no longer a fairy. Her needs are back to normal. And we have a sense of normalcy. Leaving her wings behind, Sunray steps into a life no longer ruled by emotion. She understands nature's enchantments can exist without a fairy lifestyle and wants to pursue a future in touch with normalcy. Regarding her choice, Sunray has a special place in Mother Nature's heart. Do we have like a special trait or something? I don't see. That's unfortunate. Oh, we do have a milestone. We have manifested as a fairy and became a non-occult. But we don't have like a trait that says like used to be a fairy. I don't know. I wish that it was still like show that. But as far as I can think, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to show off in this video. Because that was all pretty much the fairy gameplay. Except for like the woohoos and the death and the pregnancy of a fairy. I am going to save the rest of the fairy dust showing off. So like go into more of enchanting the plants and enchanting the gnomes. The same time I do like a plant sim video. So all of that will kind of be together in one video. And then we will also have a video that covers the differences between luck, balances, and elements with the cures. And then we'll do another video over the apothecary skill and career. And then basically I want to make a fairy for each one of the trees that we went over. So the emotion tree, the mischievous tree, and the nature tree. And do a video on each one of those. And then of course we have to do a video on the worlds and the adventures you can go on through there. And then I think the major like review video that I'll have to be last is going over living off the land and how to do the nature skill. And all of those are kind of things we slightly touched on in this video, but I want to do videos on them specifically going into more detail like I did with these. Just because, one, I know my videos are already longer videos. So no need to make like a 5-hour video. We can break it down into categories. But I feel like this was the most like overbroad video. Like it was the most wide range of topics. And all the upcoming videos that will be mixed in with other videos on the channel that don't have to do with Enchanted by Nature will be more specific. And I'm trying my best to have all of these out before the next expansion pack comes out. But like I said, there's kits coming out. I want to bring back my Grimm series and my Legacy series. And then, of course, during spooky season, there will be spooky videos. And as I talked about in my last couple videos, during September, I'm kind of going for a 2 video a week schedule. Like that will be like my minimum if I can keep up my schedule, because I'm pretty much going to be working every day of the month except Fridays. I had to take Fridays off just to get a day off. And I'm going to try to record on those days, but it's also going to be a prep day for my weekend job that I'm going to be doing in September, playing a fairy, talking about fairies in fact. But that's kind of what I have planned for this channel. Soon coming up, there will be videos coming out with the new kits, because there are kits coming out. So we're going to take a break from reviewing Enchanted by Nature and do a couple of kit reviews. So if you're interested in that, make sure to stick around for that. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and do all that awesome stuff, because you guys are awesome people. I'll see you next time. Alright,